Let me now go back to domestic politics and catch up with the Nationals leader, David Littleproud. He joins us from Queensland. David, thanks for joining us. I want to get on to the federal election campaign, which is only days or weeks away. How much of a disruption is it to you to have to deal with Clive Palmer running yet again another campaign? He says he'll run all around the country with Trumpian policies. This is going to distract your voters and perhaps take some of them away from you.
Yeah, well, Chris, just to put that in perspective, your editorial is probably one of the most powerful I've just heard. That was powerfully put and puts into perspective our democracy here and what we're fighting for and what the people of Israel have been fighting for. So I just want to acknowledge that. But it is important that we get to this election, obviously, that our democracy is at a crossroads. And when you see the streets of Sydney and Melbourne burning from people who want to bring that hate from the Middle East here and perpetrate against people, the Jewish people who want to go and worship their faith, then our democracy is in decline, and we have to do something about it, and we have to stand firm. And I think Peter Dutton and the Coalition has been firm. From the very first moment, we have been resolute in the core principle, and it's important that people understand when they go to vote that there's a clear choice. If you want to splinter the vote, if you want to vote for a minor party or for independence, then effectively you give Anthony Albanese a pathway for 3 more years of government. And look what's happened to the streets of our cities. Look what's happened to our economy. We have an opportunity that people in the Middle East don't have. We have an opportunity to get this right in a couple of months' time. And we should use that and the power of that democracy to make sure that we set our country back on the right track, and that the hate isn't permeated, and that our economy is put back on track, because our country isn't on track. It needs to be put back on track, and it can only be done with strength of leadership and with a clear choice, and that's what the Coalition is going to give at the next election.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that, and I agree with a lot of that, and I'm sorry I got a bit emotional during that editorial, but I think most people around the country would do over this particular issue. So let's try and just put that behind us. Yeah. And I do want to talk about the broader domestic debate. And we've seen it before with One Nation at their peak and with Clive Palmer in the past, where you get these right-of-centre parties and they attract a certain portion of the vote, tend not to get too many people in Parliament, but they take first preferences away from the Nationals and the LNP, and they don't all come back to you. You must be worried about that in such a tight election.
Well, it is, and this is the thing, is that at the moment we're looking at a hung parliament, and that hung parliament could go either way. We either go to the Labor Party or to the Coalition. And what Peter Dutton and I try to do is give a clear choice, whether it be about your security or about the economy. But when we have people that tear away at that choice, and when you look at what Clive Palmer's perpetrating here, is much of what we're going to do, but in Australian style. We're a different and a sovereign nation. And while I agree with a lot of what President Trump is doing, and you got to understand we're a different country, we're a different democracy and a different way of doing things. But we can do that in a uniquely Australian way, not an American way. And I think Peter Dutton and I will clearly articulate that. But if people tinker with minor parties and they tinker with independence, then they actually open up that pathway for 3 more years of Anthony Albanese. That's the risk of voting anything other than a National or a Liberal candidate.
Just very quickly, David, because we are literally out of time, is there any case for more taxpayers' money going into the Whyalla steelworks? I'm certain that's where we might be heading when the Prime Minister and Premier go there tomorrow.
Yeah, well, look, we've been very clear. We want to make sure that we keep the steelworks going, but we've got to fix the fundamentals, and that's not with green hydrogen. And I think this is also an opportunity tomorrow for Premier Malinakis, who has been a long-term proponent of nuclear energy, to say, let's walk away from this green hydrogen folly that will not underpin the fundamentals of this factory, but in fact look to actually the future, and let's get some gas in there quickly. And then in the long term, I would have thought the Premier could show some leadership and say, let's put the first nuclear power plant in South Australia to underpin Whyalla into the future.
Yeah, spot on. Thanks for joining us, David. I appreciate it. Nationals leader there, David Littleproud. The amount of money that Peter Malinauskas is pumping into green hydrogen is $600 million. That's the total cost, the upper cost of the Coalition's national nuclear energy plan. So work that one out, Australia. Which one would be better for the country?